cars underway. Stamps his authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch.
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to the next round. We've had a week off. We're back here in APC, and we're back for round number 8 of the season here around the Dutch Grand Prix circuit. I'm very excited to get started. At the moment, it is just me. I'm not sure if Owen is going to join me this evening, but for now, I mean, you're in the pleasurable company of me. What is not to love? And, well, tell you what, just a little treat just from me. We're going to get the opportunity to go straight trackside and have a look at, well, the pit lane at the circuit that we are heading to this evening. And the circuit that we will be heading to for this evening's action is going to be, as you can see on your screens, the Dutch Grand Prix. And there's the pit lane, and more specifically, the inside of the pit lane where we're going to be getting one of the cars coming out now. As I'm going to turn the audio up to the recommended level. Of course, the regular APC level is a bit higher than I'd normally have it for my streams, but that is mainly because my streams usually have it a little bit absurdly high. Anyway, not the point. Dan Riley is going to be the first car out on circuit. He says he's not feeling very well, so don't have very high expectations of him, but he's still turned up. He's still churning out results, and that's exactly what you need across the course of a championship. Of course, we've been away for 2 weeks, so you may well need a reminder of those standings, and well, I will bring you those standings right now. So the two Ferraris up at the very top of the field, Andrea Chenkovan and Ethan Shackleton, extending their lead, with Shackleton taking a victory last time out. Snell and Dan Riley, third and fourth, just 2 points separating them, and Stephen Snell fallen off ever since the start of the season, where he looked very much in the fight with Chenkovan. Paul Garung, 5th spot, 20 points off of Dan Riley, and then Kyle Stewart-Woodard 10 off him in what looks like it may well be an interesting battle for that 5th spot, although Paul looks to be the faster driver, Kyle more consistent, so he might find himself on top more often. Stuart Towers is in that 7th spot. It's very contested actually for 7th, down to pretty much anywhere. It's Towers, Weaver, joint on points. Connor Stewart-Woodard just to 2 points behind, and Burt Welly another one behind Benjamin D, not in the league anymore, 33 points for him. Brian Moore 27, and the Lucas Erasini and Harry Jennings 8 and 3, both of them hoping to be getting out to single figures this evening, as well, I mean, are racing tonight. Mr. Taddo, Harry Jennings on the 3 points at the moment. You will get points regardless of where you finish here today. And Lucas Erasini, same situation. He'll be hoping to jump out of the bottom few, but struggles with his adjustment, really would be the right word to describe it as. His adjustment to the no assist setup is what he's going to be trying to adapt to here this evening. And well, I mean, the better he does, the better he's going to help his team in the constructors. As the first laps are going to come through, we're going to see the pace of a few of these drivers. Dan Riley, 4th spot in the championship, may well go up to 3rd with his teammate not racing this evening, and it's a 109.777 to kick proceedings off. Brian Moore about to start a lap. Lucas Erasini about to come through to the 2nd sector of one, so it's an opportunity to have a look at those team standings and at exactly who sits where in those standings. It's the Ferrari at the very top of the field of Andrea Chenkovan and not Lucas Erasini, he wishes, Ethan Shackleton, who find themselves at the very top, and the Mercedes team are their gap is extending week by week by week. Down in that 2nd place. McLaren, though, big gap back to them with 83 points in 3rd place, ahead of just Paul Garung for Aston Martin, and Kyle and Connor working together to climb past Garung and hold that position. Garung actually climbed above, or alongside even Kick Sauber, but doing better because of the results that they've got, and holding them ahead. Then Racing Bulls in 6th place, as that's a slide on the circuit for Lucas Erasini, who he'd set a lap, so this was his in-lap, but not very successful. Then the Williams team round out the field with 42 points, and Red Bull Alpine and Haas, of course, we've not seen any of them this season. Fastest lap so far for Ethan Shackleton, a 109.534. for the Ferrari up at the very top of the field. And you may well have noticed that our championship leader is not here this evening. That is right. Andrea Chenkovan will not be racing this round of the Almost Pro Championship. A fascinating, fascinating race that I think we will be seeing it build out with the Ferrari up at the very top, and a fascinating development for Andrea not to be here this evening, which allows the opportunity. I mean, I mentioned the gap between Chenkovan and I mentioned the gap between himself and his teammate Ethan, which is currently 45 points, and they've got a big gap, almost double, back to Stephen Snell in third place. But Shackleton, one last time out, chance to break it down, chance to climb himself right into contention. And he'll throw himself very much into contention because Chenkovan even, if he has good results, Shackleton, in the next few rounds, then he will find himself not only in contention for, getting closer. If he takes a race win today, then he gets 25 points. He moves to within just the 20 points of Andrea Chenkovan. But Andrea is also not going to be racing at Baku later this season. Baku next week, in fact. So 2 weeks without our reigning champion and our championship leader, and the man who looks most likely to take it home. And that could throw a lot of things into the mixer. That could change a lot of things up. And maybe, we might be seeing a changing of the guard at the very top. Ethan Shackleton, second place 3 separate occasions, but now might be his opportunity, his best opportunity to take a title home. Harry Jennings in a very different scenario at the moment. Not quite the points haul of Chenkovan halfway through the season. Chenkovan's 147 to Harry Jennings' 3, but he's now trying to improve and see if he can catch up to Stuart Towers in 7th spot. This is on the 4th row of the grid. It's a 4th row lockout for the 2 Williams drivers, with Brian Moore the only driver with the time behind them. Paul Garung also behind them without a lap, and it's half a second the improvement from Harry Jennings in the first 2 sectors, and heading into the 3rd one now. This is his opportunity to try and climb himself closer to Stuart Towers. I'll be nice. 1.25 or 0.125 of a second in behind his teammate at the moment. And is he going to be able to improve on that one? He is, but Towers improved himself, so he's actually 4 tenths off his teammate now, or 4.5 tenths off his teammate, 5 tenths off of the rest of the pack, with Lucas Erracini being the one that he's now trying to chase down. But not a bad start, not a bad position for him to find himself in. The current pole man, Ethan Shackleton, backed out of it. Dan Riley is very much on a flyer. And whilst it is allegedly a purple sector, he is down overall in the first 2. And he's down by 0.037. The final corner then beckons for the Mercedes. And we'll see where Riley is able to come out as he throws his car through the final corner and opens up the DRS out of it. It's going to be... well, the Mercedes is going to back out of the lap, in fact. He's not going to be improving, and we're going to watch you on board for the final couple of sectors for Paul Garung. And that's just the end of the first one there, a 23.883 in it. And it's a very interesting sector number 2, because a lot of it is medium speed. That first corner looked like it was pretty much flat out for Paul, although I think there was a slight lift, maybe a little bit of a dab on the brakes, then a couple of medium speed corners where you need to get the car turned in and get yourself out on the exit nice and cleanly. Then second sector, 47.976 for Paul Garung. And he's going to be coming through to the final corner. We'll see where Paul ends up going. Is this going to be a lap time? I think he'll be expecting a 109 at this point in the session with his general pace. Is it going to be a 109? Not quite. Yes, it is. I was going to say not quite, because it's going to be better than that. A 109, 149 for Paul Garung, and that is going to put himself just under 4 tenths ahead of second place Ethan Shackleton. What about Burt Welly then? 3rd spot for him, just eking himself ahead of Dan Riley and improving in the first sector. That's not going to help his improvements, nor is that. And round goes Burt Welly. He drops the rear, and we get a beautiful view for some reason of all the Max Verstappen fans, all the Dutch fans will be, I think, potentially a little bit disappointed with the turnout here today. I mean, the home driver, Steven Snell, not racing. Oh dear, that's not a... that's not what they would have wanted. But they still get strong racing action, a very good fight for the top with no Chenkovan, and an opportunity for somebody else to make their name known, to make their voice heard. Paul Garung, at the moment, the man who's making his voice heard at the very top, Carl Stuart Woodard, is, going to be going for another lap, I'd imagine, being 5 seconds down. So that is not going to be a push lap. Dan Riley, is this going to be a push lap? He certainly looks like he's flying on a lap here. And it certainly looks like he's going to be pushing very hard. Indeed, he is. And Dan Riley looking to improve on the lap time that finds himself 0.016 or 0.018 even behind Burt Welly, if I can do my maths actually correctly. What is it up to the second sector split time? Just about a loss, 5 thousandths of a second, as we get our 11th driver for the evening. So maybe not quite the turnout he was expecting, or the turnout I was expecting. I don't know why I'm talking in the third person now. Dan Riley into the pits again. He's not happy with the time, and he's in from fourth. Carl Stuart Woodard also in. 7 minutes left in the session, but I don't know what I was talking about because I talked earlier about everybody being able to be in the top 10. I guess maybe I was talking about someone like a Harry Jennings, and it was Lucas Ericini, the other one I used for that example. Not being biased, those are the two that I just used for the example. But those are the ones that I think will be fighting over the final points position. Ceracini, though, to be fair, he's pacey enough. He's very much pacey enough to be into the points, but mistake-ridden season, I think it's fair to say, and we'll watch on as he will begin his formation lap. Just warming up the tyres a little bit. Day at the beach. Fine by me. I mean, Zandvoort's, it literally translates to, I believe, sand something. What is it? Is it sand dunes? Hang on. Let me... Zandvoort means sand ford, sand passage, sand dunes, basically. That's not what that means. Anyway, Lucas Ericini around the final corner to start his lap. And we'll see where he's going to be able to end up in this qualifying session. And the start of it doesn't look too terrible. But Ceracini's having the problem that I tend to have, or tended to have, when I briefly race on this game as he backs out of the lap of, well, you want to be, as I've just skipped through drivers. Oops. I'm going to go back to Stuart Towers, who's improved by 4/10 in the first two sectors. He's got the problem of wanting to drive on no assists because you feel it's right to race on no assists, and you feel it's better for you to race on no assists. He's really struggling with it, and that's, I mean, it's fair enough. 0.023 seconds he was off of Stuart. That is before Stuart improved. And he found himself into 5th spot. What can his teammate do then? 0.165 for the Williams improvement. And we will see where he's going to go around the final corner and putting the power down. I reckon this is going to be a lap time in the 1:10s. I reckon it's going to be off of Lucas Ericini. And guess what? I was right. And I know I said it afterwards. But look, listen. Let me cook. I'm sure all of these drivers will be saying, let me cook. This evening, one of the drivers who tends to use a lot of modern slang, Dan Riley, in that final sector. That makes me sound so old. Anyway, Dan Riley in the final sector. We'll see what the Mercedes is going to be able to do. Up to the line then for the driver in 4th place, and it's just about pretty much matching his lap. Obviously, doesn't help for his for his qualifying session, but I think that promises for the race, That really does feel like something that you want to be able to replicate. You want to be able to put in lap after lap after lap of the same, and he's done that 3 times in a row now. And I'll have a look at what his lap times are after Mr. Taddo, Harry Jennings, and Lucas Erracini make their way up to the line and set their times. Taddo into the pit lane. Lucas Erracini, 1 minute 10.324, and splits the 2 Stuart Woodards. Very, very tight qualifying session so far. 0.017 splitting those 3. But Dan Riley, this is where only those 2 laps are similar, aren't they? Yeah, okay. So, ignore me. Yeah, ignore me completely because I am incorrect, objectively incorrect. But, look, listen, my stats are not stats, they're just vibes, and I have no problems with stats, vibes, those 2 things interchanging. Anyway, not the point. Burt Welly is in that second sector. I think he's backed out of that lap. Indeed, it looks like he has. So he'll be going again. Lots of drivers spinning in that corner. I think I've seen Burt Welly and potentially Lucas Erracini spinning it round there. So maybe it might just be a V-carb thing. Maybe, but who knows. Jack Weaver is on his first lap of the day. And, well, Jack Weaver is connected to one of the drivers who's managed to set the best debut, I'd argue, of APC history. I say one of the drivers. There's only one, George Chapman, and he came in, or not the best debuts, but one of the best drivers to make their debut. And he made his debut in season number 8, round 7. I was here taking you through the action, and, well, he didn't have the greatest start to his APC campaign, just riddled with problems, decided to retire. Didn't go down well, but then he had one more go as Jack Weaver has retired. Or not retired, invalidated. George Chapman was the one who retired from the session and didn't go down very well, but then the next few races did, and until they didn't. That's the deepest. I'm going to go into that conversation. Dan Riley matching his lap time again, only exactly a 10th down. Burt Welly, he's improving in that first sector, but because Dan Riley's further on in the lap, we're going to watch on with the Mercedes as he heads around the final corner. Of course, he's got the Kick Sauber, who's not on a lap ahead of him, and they may well be setting themselves up for now, and I think they are. I think they're going to come across the line. 1 minute and 6 seconds left. Dan Riley does not improve by a second. I think that's going to be the end of the session for the Mercedes, so a disappointing one then, and it's a case of what could have been. Could he have eked out an extra 10th, and he does retire on track from the session. Burt Welly around the final corner, up to the line. DRS is open and it's a 109.662, so a bit of time lost in the final sector, but not too terrible. Both the Stuart Woodards are going to make it to the line, and I believe that's going to be, is that Harry Jennings setting another time? Indeed it is, a 1:10.788. The McLaren now of Connor Stuart Woodard just starting his lap. Carl Stuart Woodard just coming to the end of his formation lap. Same thing as a out lap. Around the final corner then, is this going to be pole position for Ethan Shackleton, as we've had 3 retirements? Brian Moore becomes the latest, and Shackleton lays down the gauntlet with a 108.952 and retires in sensational style out of the first corner. Then next driver to come up to the line will be Paul Garung. He is 2 tenths down, so he may well not be able to hold it to Shackleton within this qualifying session, and he might be finding himself on the front row of the grid, but with a lot of work to do. Around the final corner, DRS is open for the Aston Martin. Up to the line he comes. The checkered flag did wave about 15 seconds ago, so he's not going to get any more cracks at the whip, and it's not going to be an improvement for him, nor is it going to be an improvement for Burt Welly. Connor up to the line now. What can he do? Can he beat his time? Yes, he can, and he can beat Stuart Towers in the process. Up to the line for Harry Jennings. Not an improvement. Big down on his lap. Kyle and Burt Welly throughout. Well, they'll be the last drivers to finish their session. Burt Welly not improving. Kyle will be the last one on a timed lap up to the line, improving by a quarter of a second, more or less. And is this going to be enough to jump him ahead? Yes, it is. And he's actually almost exactly matched as Stuart Towers' time, but 2 thousandths off of it, and he finds himself in 7th place. But it's going to be Shackleton who takes that pole position. Paul Garung will be alongside him on that front row. Burt Welly 3rd place. 6/10 or 5/10 pretty much off of Paul Garung in the front row, and Dan Riley in fourth, only 4 thousandths ahead of Connor Stewart-Woodard. Then a similar split between Stuart Towers and Kyle Stewart-Woodard, split by 0.022 between the drivers in 6th and 7th. Then Lucas Aracini, Jack Weaver, Harry Jennings and Brian Moore will round out the field. But we are now into the race session, and as you can see on your screens in front of you, it is wet, baby. It's wet here in Zandvoort. And, well, whilst it might not do it justice in terms of on the rain, on the screen, it's an absolute monsoon out on the circuit. So the drivers are going to have that to contend with. Of course, those who gambled on a dry setup in qualifying, because of course they knew that it was going to be a wet race. We didn't. I was made aware, but the drivers on the whole knew. Apologies if you just heard anything there, because I just accidentally joined the McLaren VC. Don't know what that was about. Anyway, it's wet out on the circuit. That's the main point that I wanted to get across. But, I mean, that would have been interesting. I mean, they both started talking at the same time, so maybe they were talking to me. Couldn't hear them. But either way, I mean, this is set to be a very interesting race. That might be why we see a couple of drivers out of position. But one thing's for sure, they're all on the blue wet tyre. We don't see this anymore in real F1. We don't see the blue walled wet compound of tyre. But, yeah, I mean, we're going to be seeing it this evening, and we're going to be seeing it in just a couple of moments' time when we get underway. Shackleton leading us to it, and Paul Garung will be alongside him on the front row of the field. And this is going to be an interesting one to see who has prepared themselves for these conditions and who's going to get left behind in the dust, because it is horrible out there on the circuit. I know that it's not been done justice by what's on the screen at the moment. I know it doesn't look like that, but it's just that's what the game does. So, yeah. You know who that's not gonna favour? Lucas Aracini, who is not happy about this. I'll tell you that, and he's already making predictions as to where he's going to crash out. Each to their own, I guess. But well, we will see as the formation lap is about to get underway. And, well, Lucas Aracini says he's going to crash somewhere in Sector 2. So keep an eye out for that one later on in the race. We have 2 of our driver updates. They seem to have dwindled down. But the 2 driver updates are from the man starting 7th and the man starting 1st. So we will, of course, have a look at the man starting 7th first. And then we'll build up to the man on pole and potentially in line to take a race victory. Kyle Stewart-Woodard, who says that his previous race he had a great start ruined by poor strategy choice, and that, fair enough. I mean, we had a dry to wet race, and that was the difficulty. It was a dry to wet race, and you never know how long it's going to take to come. Some teams got it right, some teams got it wrong. He got it wrong, so that is what it is. What has changed since your last race? I changed internet provider as of the Monday before the race, so he's hoping they're reliable. I can tell you for free, he's using his old internet because his new internet is not, at least yet, reliable. Yeah, practice has been really positive. Reportedly, his time trials are the most competitive they've been so far this season. As his time trial times would put him behind Ethan, but in and around where Paul Garung is. So those are the top 2 in terms of practice, and they've translated over to qualifying. Maybe not Kyle so much, but it is what it is. He says top 5, and, well, he's hoping to prove Owen wrong. Owen will not be seeing that, but he's hoping to prove Owen wrong. And Ethan, few less words for the man on pole position. He's super happy with the hard-fought win. He's got a couple of fun facts now sprinkled throughout the race, I think. Well, one fun fact, but he's looking forward to it, hoping for a podium. He doesn't think his pace is all that great to fight for a win. Tell that to the 6/10th gap between himself and Burt Welly in third place. So I think he's going to be fighting for a win today, and he's in pole position to do so. He's in prime position to do so. I used it as a turn of phrase, but he is on that pole position quite literally, and he is going to be attacked into the first corner by Paul Garung. The lights are on, the drivers are ready, and the action is underway. Paul Garung gets off to a stronger start, as does Burt Welly. It's a sluggish one for Ethan Shackleton, who's going to be 3 wide for P2 into the first corner. Dan Riley on the inside line. Burt Welly trying to go through the middle. Dan's going to go too tight to the first corner, so he's going to have to squeeze himself wide, and he squeezes Burt Welly in the meantime. Shackleton is not punished too badly for his mistake. Burt Welly, though, is going to be fighting with Connor Stewart-Woodard, who then himself is caught up in a fight with his teammate. Looking behind, that is going to be Jack Weaver and Stuart Towers, both trying to fight with not just Kyle, but each other. They remain side by side for 6th place as they head through the first sector. In the end of the first sector, it's going to be Jack Weaver out on top of that one, and out on top of another one. Huge last-minute send on Kyle Stewart-Woodard, and he makes it stick, but 1.1 already off of the top 4, and he's going to be desperate to bridge that gap as another big gap that's building up. The top 2, unsurprisingly, trying to split away from the rest of the field. They've got that gap already, and they look like they're going to be building that up throughout the rest of the session. Lucas Aracini threw on Brian Moore on the race start, and Brian Moore, who had a good start, jumping 2 places, jumping back down 1, and might be jumping back another one as Harry Jennings looks to pull alongside, heading into the next braking zone, but not quite yet. Brian Moore holds on to P10, the final points position, and the drivers are going to head out of the final corner to end the first lap. It's going to be Paul Garung in first place after getting a much better launch than Ethan Shackleton, and the Ferrari drops to 2nd place, 8/10 back on Garung. 3rd place then for Dan Riley, who has a big gap of a whole second, and that looks like what it's going to be between Shackleton and Garung, as they head into the first corner one more time. Burt Welly 4th place, and then gaps of 1 second, 1 and a bit seconds between Burt Welly, Jack Weaver, Stuart Towers, who's just gotten through on Kyle Stewart-Woodard, and Lucas Aracini, who's just gotten through on Connor. But yeah, that gap is increasing from 6th place downwards, 2.1 between Towers and Weaver at this point in time, and Weaver's trying to make his way back in to Burt Welly's slipstream and to the timing gap that he has between himself and the V-car. But yeah, lap 2 of the 36 laps of Zandvoort. And it's going to be Paul Garung at the very peak of it. As that's a huge kick of oversteer from Lucas Aracini, who struggles for grip at the best of times, struggles with no assist at the best of times. That's Connor off of the circuit, and he's going to be overtaken by Brian, and he's just collided with Harry Jennings, and the Williams' day is pretty much over. Huge shame there for Harry Jennings, as it looked like Connor was scrambling back onto the circuit, scrambling back onto the line, and just came across the Williams and now takes off a huge chunk of his wing. Both end plates have jumped off of that Williams car, and he's nosing his way back to the start-finish straight and to the pits, as now Burt Welly on the inside line of Dan Riley trying to force a mistake, trying to scare the Mercedes, but at the moment the Mercedes holds firm and in position. 2 seconds now off of Shackleton and off of Paul Garung in that first place. Shackleton, fastest lap last time out, not enough to eke that gap down to less than 8/10 of a second. That's what it sits at, as he set a 28.3, and it was briefly held the fastest lap by Paul Garung, who came across the line and set. I'm trying to find the time, but it was so briefly set that Ethan Shackleton just jumped up straight away and overtook it. It was actually a 4/10 improvement from Shackleton on Paul Garung's time. So that is a huge time gain. Dan Riley slipping and sliding his way through the first sector and into the second one, with Burt Welly applying as much pressure as he's possibly able to in the wets. He's going to need those wellies here in Zandvoort because of how wet it is out on the circuit. And at the moment, he's doing a good job at tiptoeing his way through, splashing through the puddles, and he's applying all that pressure onto the back of Dan Riley, who is at the moment dealing with it, but at any given moment he could just have a slip, he could just have a slide, and how many water-related puns was that? I want to say 4. Something like that. I'm impressed. Anyway, the 4th lap is underway. Paul Garung still leads. He has eked out that gap back up on Shackleton. And Burt Welly may be looking to the inside. Jack Weaver into the pit lane. And he's got a 10-second time penalty for speeding. Surely because he lost grip on the entry and tried to send it too hard. Has he got front wing damage in the Kick Sauber? Yes, he does. That's unfortunate, excuse me. And he will drop to even behind Harry Jennings. How is he behind? Hang on. Harry Jennings' front wing did he come into the pits? Has Harry been in? That's not what I wanted. No, he hasn't. Okay. So, okay, that makes sense. I would have thought that it was a cut and dry pit stop from Harry Jennings, but he feels differently. He feels as though he needs to stay out, and that's exactly what he's done. Or he feels as though he should stay out at the very least. But yeah, he's slipping and sliding back to Burt Welly, who is, I mean, very much fighting with Dan Riley at the moment, trying to open himself up on the exit of the corner. And is he going to be able to set himself up out of the final one? Not quite yet, but he is very much threatening the back of Dan Riley. When it is wet, you are going to make more mistakes. That is a fact. And at the moment, Burt Welly is chasing down on Dan and is going to be on the inside line of the first corner. This is the opportunity he's been waiting for. Dan braking significantly later. That might open up the exit for Burt, even if the entry is compromised. But Dan stays ahead. Burt Welly drops into 4th place, drops in behind the Mercedes and remains in with an opportunity at fighting. Dan runs wide. Burt Welly again pulls alongside, but not alongside enough. And that is a shame for Burt, but he's going to be able to just continue the pressure. He knows that there's going to be a little bit of give for Dan, and he's going to try and exploit any opportunity he can get to pull alongside, pull ahead. Harry Jennings into the pit lane, making a switch, and he's making a switch to the same tyres, which is unsurprising. But I just wanted to see whether it wasn't as bad as maybe it looks, but no, it is bad. Or maybe it's getting better, because obviously we've not got the on-screen indication that much. We've got the murky skies, we've got the pitter-patter of rain. How does it look from an onboard perspective? Well, that just sums up. I genuinely think that it is too rainy for it to be noticed. I really do think it's too rainy to be noticed out on the circuit, which is mad. That's crazy. But yeah, either way, Burt Welly, 4th spot at the moment. Is it going to turn into 3rd? Not with that slide out of the exit. Shackleton has gained significantly on Paul Garung. We are getting quicker out on the circuit. Burt Welly on the inside line again, trying to force Dan Riley to brake too late and outbrake himself. But again, Dan Riley, knowing his braking point, knowing that he's got the confidence to go later than Burt, he holds ahead. And this is where I think running more assists can help you, but at the same time can feel a little bit scummy is the wrong word. Scummy is entirely the wrong word. But if I would feel dirty, and I don't know if this is a shared opinion with many people, if any, but I would feel dirty defending against somebody simply because I've got traction on so I can brake later. That's what Dan Riley's got over Burt Welly at the moment. It doesn't appear as though Burt Welly's got the traction on, at least as much as Dan has, because I know Dan runs full traction, I believe, and Burt, I think, runs medium traction. But yeah, I wouldn't feel as though that would be a fair way to defend a position, but also I'm not in that car, and Dan Riley has used what he has to his advantage to remain ahead, so fair play. Allegedly purple second sector for Burt Welly, as he struggled to keep up in that first sector, but second sector is where he's really able to gain an advantage and try to hold himself in with the fight. And Paul Garung 2/10 quicker than Ethan Shackleton, fastest lap of the race. Dan Riley into the pit lane. Now, what is this going to be a pit stop for? Is it going to be another pit stop for another set of blue-walled wet tyres? Or is it going to be a switch onto potentially the intermediates? It is the intermediate tyres. It is the intermediate tyres for Dan Riley. Interesting. He's not the only one. Stuart Towers has decided it's time to switch over. And maybe the weather's getting better, as that's a slide from Brian Moore into the first corner. He, though, is going to be able to pull alongside, but remain behind of Dan Riley, so he's not going to affect the Mercedes' pace too much. But, yeah, we'll see. This is definitely the crossover point. You can see Dan's already gained 2 tenths, 4 tenths, 6 tenths, even more in that one corner. I'd say potentially it was even as early as last lap. I'd say that Harry Jennings missed a trick there, unfortunately, coming in for the set of the wets, because look at that pace advantage Dan Riley has over Connor Stewart-Wood at the moment. That is unbelievable. And he's going to be able to overtake probably into the chicane is where he's going to be wanting to brake and, you know, actually get the move done. But this is going to gain him a huge amount of time. Maybe even throw himself into the fight with Paul Garung and Ethan Shackleton when they both inevitably come in at the end of this lap. Because this is a litmus test, and the litmus test has proven not only successful, but nigh on unbelievable. In comes Paul, outstays Shackleton, 10-second time penalty for Paul Garung. So he joins Jack Weaver in having those penalties. That's unfortunate, but, well, that could play a huge factor in the remainder of this race, as Dan Riley is going to take advantage. He could brake at a normal time in a normal way. Connor couldn't quite do so, and so Dan able to get through. This is the pit stop window. Last lap was the time to come in. Shackleton, I think, has really missed a trick, unless he's seeing something we are not. Maybe those tyres aren't going to last all the way to where he needs them to, because I'm expecting them to go to tries. Maybe they just don't last. Yeah, maybe they just don't last. And, well, that's going to be intriguing. To see whether Shackleton does dive in. Maybe this lap, surely you would think, with everybody else in the pit lane for those inters, you'd think that surely this is Shackleton's chance to shine. Has it everybody... I don't think I've seen everybody come in, as that's going to be Jack Weaver with a 10-second time penalty. Adding on to it, as he's now made his switch onto the inters. He's not had a great day, although he has managed to get through on Harry Jennings. So every cloud has a silver lining, and he's able to get out of ahead of him into the... Is it Tarzan bush, that corner? Right. I will say, I will clarify before I do this bit, before I do this conversation topic over the next few laps. I don't speak Dutch. I don't claim to speak Dutch. The closest I've come to speaking Dutch is I went on a factory tour in the Netherlands. And I didn't want to be that British guy, right, that refuses to let you speak your native language. I'm going to let them talk. So I just had a tour of the circuit, a tour of the factory in Dutch. I learnt a bit. I apologise, I don't know how long that menu was up there, but it's gone now. It wasn't that long. Half a lap or so, maybe. Too long, but not long, as everybody, apart from Harry Jennings, is into the pit lane. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jennings is in as well, as Shackleton came out 2.7 seconds in behind Paul Garung, with time to make up, but one lap can make a huge difference on the tyres, and that's what he's going to be hoping is the case here today. I'm going to try and get a track map up. Okay, it's not Tarzan Bosch. That's the first corner. Actually, let's ride on board with Shackleton as he tries to close down Paul Garung for a lap of the Zandvoort circuit. We didn't do this in qualifying, so we may as well do it in the race. And we'll watch on board with Ethan Shackleton out of the penultimate corner and into the final one. DRS would be enabled out of it, but of course not on this lap, not in these conditions, although later on in the race, very potentially. Fastest lap of the race for Paul Garung, Ethan Shackleton. Fastest second and third sectors, so there's time in the lap. Burt Welly finds time in it, and Tarzan Bosch then for Ethan Shackleton. That's the first corner on the circuit. Slingshots you out, which is the reasoning for that name, and then into Gerlachsbosch and down to Hugenholzbosch. Bosch means corner, so it's not really necessary, but and then up to Unzerug, and Shackleton desperately trying to bear down on Paul Garung now, but knowing he doesn't actually have to that quickly. Then down through Schlottermacherbucht, and into Schivlak and Masterbosch. And this is Bosch B. Nope, Bosch 9. So, turn 9. Turn 10, next one up. Creative names. And it's just, that's going to be the first two sectors. He was purple in the first. Second sector, we will see as he comes up to the split time now. Then into Bosch, as he's not purple in that second sector, but he's still gaining on Paul Garang by about a tenth. It's not enough to catch him, but it's enough to stay within range, and it's enough to ward off the rapid Bert Welly. But yeah, that's going to be the Bosch, and then down into Kumho, and the final corner is Aria Luyendoich Bosch, and that is going to be a lap around Zandvoort. Thank you very much. I shall bow. And thank you, Ethan Shackleton, for getting that done in the shortest time possible, the fastest time possible that we've seen so far, a 24.9 that he has managed to set, and he's closing in on Paul Garang now by quite a margin. It's 2.3 seconds the difference between himself now and Garang, and it's only going to come down 2.1 now as we're going to switch over briefly to the fight for 6th place. Carl Stuart Woodard holding on ahead of Lucas Erracini, who's of course not running any assists, so hypothetically he's going to be faster, but there's mistakes that can be drawn out quite quickly and easily from the V-carb. As Shackleton now 1.5 in behind Garang, and I'm sure that's going to be a move that's set up within the next couple of laps. Erracini now up to the sort of curvy straight. It has a name. It's the Rob Schlottermaker Bush. Where is my menu gone? There. Okay. But yeah, Lucas Erracini is just trying to chase Kyle, get past him as soon as he possibly can. The McLaren is holding on for now, but for how much longer is he going to be able to? With Luca, quite clearly, I think, at this stage, the faster car, and he's just getting the exits that he needs. He's managed to set himself up well on with the assist that he's got, as fast as that for Shackleton once again. 8 tenths between himself and Garang. We're watching with the back of the McLaren rear wing as Seracini creeps closer and closer and closer, and the door's open for the final corner if he wants it, but he doesn't. He does not want it into the final braking zone. But on the exit, a little bit of a spark as there's contact between his front wing and the rear diffuser of the McLaren, but they pull side by side out of the final corner, and they slingshot themselves towards Tarzan Bosch, who's going to be the later on the brakes, who's going to dare to brake later. Kyle brakes later, Seracini's on the inside line, Kyle tries to turn in, and Luca's already there, so there's a bit of contact between the two, and Kyle eventually has to see the position. Luca makes his way through. That was a very well set up move for the V-car, very, very patient, and he's managed to make his way up into 6th place, and Kyle dropping down to 7th, and we switch our eyes back, and we switch our attention back to the lead of the race. Paul Garang held it, but with Shackleton now with sufficiently prepared tyres, he's ready to attack. He's ready to fight with the Aston Martin, and is he going to be making a similar move out of the final corner and slingshotting himself down towards Tarzan Bosch? We shall wait and see for the Ferrari, but out of the final corner then he's going to try and open up that, well, not open up that DRS, but open up that final corner is what I meant to say, and maybe open up that ERS as well. We can't quite see because of course the flashing would tell us if he's at 100% or 0 ERS, but it also tells us that it's wet. We can see there's the rain, but yeah, I mean, it is wet out on the circuit. However, does appear to be majority standing water. Maybe the last few laps of this race are going to be in the dry. Just maybe. But of course, we'll wait and see. But Shackleton is creeping. He is very much creeping closer to the back of Paul Garang now, and is trying to set himself up an opportunity. He does want to get this one done on track, knowing that Garang's probably going to serve that penalty, and then once he's done that, if he makes the decision to stay behind, he is, for want of a better term, cooked towards the end of this race. But you can see how much more Ethan Shackleton is pushing into the corners than Paul Garang. Or, more specifically, Paul Garang is pushing. Ethan Shackleton is getting more out of the corners than Garang, and that is the difference between these two drivers at the moment. While Shackleton is able to throw himself into the corners, braking early, huge swing of turning. Paul Garung is more a case of just trying to fight his car through the corners. At the moment, weirdly enough, seems to be working, but we'll see how much longer it works as they appear to come up to the first of lap traffic. We have not seen anybody lap for a while, but Harry Jennings will be the first one, maybe of even the season, to get lapped on track. Not sure whether that would be right, but something along those lines, as Paul Garung is going to head through and surely get through on Jennings as soon as he can. The blue flags will be waving for the Williams maybe in a couple of corners' time. Wouldn't be surprised if they were also waving now, but this is going to give Paul a little bit of slipstream, he's going to hope, a little bit of dirty air, Shackleton's going to hope, and at the moment it has just all been dirty air, but that is the nature of the first sector and a half, and this is where the slipstream comes into effect as Jack Weaver makes his way past his teammate down the straight. Maybe a little bit of team orders going on down at Kick Sauber as they feel as though the quicker driver is going to be, as there's yellow flags out on the circuit. Harry Jennings out of the way, whether he meant it or not, didn't quite see what actually ended up happening there. It did just look like he might have backed off and allowed them through, so those yellow flags were for a driver letting them through nice and simply, and I think he's going to have to let Burt Welly through as well, who's one not to forget in this race. Burt Welly, he has managed to stay within range of Shackleton at the very least. He's just set the fastest lap. He's the quickest man out on the circuit, and he's only 4.4 seconds off of Shackleton. There's ample opportunity that he's going to be into this race with any mistake from Shackleton. Garung, bit of a different situation, 10-second time penalty. But Burt Welly, huge opportunity. And, you know, he's got to grab it with both hands. I mean, he's got the pace, but I don't know if he has it consistently enough to be able to fight with Shackleton, to fight with Paul Garung. You know what I've been having a look at over the last few days? Project Eternium. Or it might be Project Eternum. Either one. But it's Sim Racing Centre's latest project, which gives you, like, a timing graphic and loads of other graphics, and obviously the timing graphic, don't really need it, already got one, but I mean for onboards that'd be pretty cool. If you're racing, that'd be pretty cool. I know Kyle's streaming his point of view on Twitch now, so that would be pretty cool. But yeah, it's more, you know, they just make these graphics just a bit cooler as Ethan Shackleton looking to the inside. That's the first time we've really seen Ethan Shackleton try to shape something up, try to create a move on Paul Garung for the last few laps. He's just been running in behind, but that first corner where he just took that inside line, yes, he locked up a little bit, but that sends a message to Paul. That sends a message to say, I know I'm faster, and I just need you to get out of the way, basically. You're just a moving roadblock to me, as not Kyle, even Connor. That's Kyle, that's Connor. He's side by side with Jack Weaver, who's on the inside line, and he's trying to scythe his way back through the field. He's managed to make his way through on his own teammate and on Connor, but he runs over the curbing on the exit. So can Connor fight back? Huge wobbles for Jack Weaver down the straight, which should theoretically allow Connor back into it, but there's only so much that Connor can do to remain in it, and in fact, in the end, he's just in behind, and he's staying in behind. Of course, Jack Weaver, the day has not gone his way, and I believe, has he now got 20 seconds, or has he served at that time? He's got 13 seconds because he got a track limit warning as well. Okay, so Jack Weaver not having the greatest of days, fair to say, I think, and well, we will see how the rest of this one progresses. Lap 17 of 36. And we're almost up to the halfway stage. Fastest lap of the race goes to Burt Welly once again. He's now eked that gap down. Would eking a gap down be a thing? I'm not sure. And the reason I say I'm not sure, I'm answering my own question. But the reason that... What am I saying? I don't remember. Anyway, this is really bad. I do this a lot where I'm midpoint and I go, What? So, I don't know if you picked that up by now. Because I've done plenty of broadcasts here. I was saying to Kyle and to Owen when he was here a couple of weeks ago, I have commentated for the Almost Pro Championship the second most times out of anyone. Which is crazy if you think about it. Because, you know, it doesn't feel like I've done that many APC broadcasts. It really doesn't. But then you have a look at the stats and they don't lie. You know, they don't lie at all. So, I mean, I'm of course very honoured to be doing my, as I get up the sheet, 21st APC broadcast. It's the second most broadcasts I've ever done anywhere. Owen is, by the way, my second most co-com. That doesn't make sense in English, you know what I mean. But yeah, we've worked together 14 times out of those 21. Thought he might be joining me tonight. He is not. In that time, Max Ring has also joined me. He actually started us off the season in Australia. Mine and Max Ring's partnership is generational. I've commentated with him over double what me and Owen have done, which is crazy to think. It's over double anyone else because obviously, as I say, Owen's second, Max is 33 broadcasts. I believe that's up to 34 now. Owen 14. So that's just the levels that he's reaching. But APC is second in my all time, which is weird to say. Third place is going to catch up soon because I'm doing 2 a week for them at the moment. So it's going to be close. APC will be the 21st and Racing Club International free promo. I should start running ads. I'll just be like, hey, want a break from the ads? The first advert that I thought of was an anti-advert advert. Yeah. But yeah, Racing Club International, which is where I started doing anti-F1 stuff. Because I went through a phase of being very anti-F1. I started to do different things. I've done quite a bit, as that's a slide from Shackleton. I've done quite a bit of Assetto Corsa Competizione, iRacing, Le Mans Ultimate now. And RCI is getting up there. It's very much getting up there with APC. It was ahead massively, but I've not been back there since I started in April. No, I started in February. I probably ended in around April, May time. So I've not been there for about 5 odd months. And, well, I'm going back there. I'm doing 2 times a week. That's going to be catching up very quickly at the moment. APC will be on 21. RCI will be on 18. By the end of the next 3-week stretch, I'll have done 6 more. No, 4 more, because I've counted the first 2 already. So RCI will be on 22. APC will be on 23. It's going to be close. No one else is going to be close? Bert Welly. He's caught right up to the back of Shackleton. He has been the outstanding driver over the last few laps, and he is going to be within quote-unquote DRS range. And I say DRS range because he's going to be within 1 second, which of course is DRS range in the dry, and it's a good indicator of how close you are to a car ahead. I'd say the sweet spot is you want to be 4, 5, 6, 7 tenths back, because then you're getting all the effects of, you know, a loose bit of slipstream. Any closer than 4 tenths of a second, whacked with dirty air. That's how it feels, at least. As that's going to be another 3-second time penalty for Jack Weaver for corner cutting. That's really how it feels with the way it is at the moment, with the game in the state it is. You want to be about 4 tenths back, then down the straight you can just nail it. Especially with DRS, you can just nail it, pin the throttle to the floor, and make your way through. And I think that's what Shackleton's going to be waiting for now. It does appear to be drying up still. These camera angles don't do it justice. It's when they're down the main straight. Almost looks like bone dry off of the line even. Whereas camera angles like that make it look wet. So I can't really tell what it's going to be. I can't really tell. Which of course is frustrating for you and for me. Okay, so now it looks wet on that camera angle. Show the one from above again. Or don't. Okay. That, in fairness, would have been really funny if it did. But yeah, 15 laps to go. We might be getting dry conditions here. Burt Welly is 6/10 back, on Ethan Shackleton, and he looks raring and ready to go. In fairness, me kicking my desk, not the worst noise that's happened to me on a broadcast here, at least. Belgium last season, which I still haven't clipped. My wheel fell off of its stand, which was weirdest thing that's ever happened to me while commentating. I think genuinely, I think that's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. So, yeah. I mean, very, very odd thing to happen. Was funny, can't lie. So, is what it is. As Burt Welly shapes up a move on Ethan Shackleton. The Ferrari's lost pace over the last couple of laps. Burt Welly trying to shape it to the outside line. Shackleton breaks late. Burt Welly's through, but he allows the opportunity for Shackleton to fight back. He's slowed on the exit of the corner, but not enough for Shackleton to be able to pull alongside. And Burt Welly up to P2. And now 1.8 between Welly and Paul Garung at the very top of the field. That's a split. That's a huge split. And he's going to need to offset that, or he's stuffed, basically. 1.6 between the two. And Shackleton, Shack attack, ready to attack. Was it me? Or was it... Who was it? It might have been... Who's the person ahead? Who was the person before me? It was... I've messaged him. This is bad. Who was it? Tom. Oh, why did I blank on his name for so long? Tom, who actually was the person before me. I think it might have been him who had that soundboard moment. Although, having said that, I don't know if Kyle was in his soundboard phase when Tom was here. Because it feels like they were all me or all Zach Sweeney. Matched with Zach Sweeney on LinkedIn the other day. I've heard very good things about him. Obviously, I've seen his commentary, but I've heard very good things about him as a guy. So, you know, all's fair. Lap 23. Burt Welly on the back of Paul Garung, ready to attack. It did look as though potentially he was going to pull alongside. Backed out of it, decided not to, and well, he's going to set himself up out of a different corner. I have no doubt that he's going to be able to at least pull himself alongside again. At the very, very least, pull alongside again. If not, get ahead. But we'll see. Of course, we will certainly see whether Paul Garung's defences are strong enough to hold off the Racing Bulls driver, who's set this move up over a number of laps and who just really, really can be seen as the quickest driver out on circuit at the moment. Even though he's not in the lead, even though his lap times, because he is behind the leader, aren't going to be that great, he is in a very strong position and he is trying to find any opportunity to get through on Garung. Here's an opening on the inside of the chicane. He's through. Bit of contact, bit of wheel bagging, but he's through on Garung. And could this be Shackleton's opening as well? Not quite. So Garung has dropped down now to second place. Burt Welly up to the lead of the race for the first time, and he's certainly gotten into it. He's gotten into his race now, as Shackleton has now gotten through on Garung, who is into the pit lane. Don't think there was any damage between himself and Burt Welly, was there? Is he switching to a new set of inters? Yes, he is. But he's going to be serving his 10-second time penalty now, and that is going to be a crucial moment in this race. Is he going to be able to get out ahead of Towers and Riley, Or is he just going to have to suffer and try and overtake them? It's going to be very close. Towers is going to be very close to the back of Daniel Riley. He's trying to jink him to the inside. He's trying to dare him. And this time, Stuart Towers is the one who sends it to the inside. Huge switch back from Dan Riley. Bit of a tap between the two. Gurung is going to come out behind, but crucially, without that 10-second time penalty, Riley remains on the inside. Towers remains on the racing line and remains holding the position, but opens up the door to Dan Riley, who makes a second switch back of the battle, but doesn't, crucially, complete it. Doesn't get ahead in the end. And I think he'll be disappointed. Because that very much looked like the move was on for Dan Riley. And maybe he had some sort of traction issue on the exit. Maybe that was the full traction working against him, the weaknesses of the system. But either way, Towers had a lot more grip out of the corner. Gurung, 1.2 behind them. He is going to catch even more rapidly than those who first pitted. It's going to be insane. Yellow flags. Jack Weaver's had a problem. He's back out onto the circuit. He's lost about 4 seconds of time. And that's unfortunate because he was catching up to the back of Carl Stewart Woodard already. And that's another 3-second time penalty for good measure, adding to his growing tally of penalties. Lap 25 of 36 then. Is this 11 laps to go? No, it's 12, isn't it? Because you've got lap 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Don't know why I'm doing it rhythmically. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. I don't know what it is about Zandvoort, by the way, that brings out the terrible commentary. Maths. It is 12 laps, by the way. I don't like that I had to do it on my fingers. That is a drawback as Jack Weaver retires from the session. Everybody then will get points. And I'm not going to work out what the... You know what? I am going to work out what that means for the championship if everyone gets points here today. So, sorry, that was me clearing my throat in a theatrical fashion, not in a real fashion. I realised it didn't come across. So, if they finish as it stands, Burt Welly picks up 25 points. He will then... Oh, no, 26, because he got the fastest lap. He will then... Do we have the fastest lap point? Hang on. This is bad. But everywhere I look has a different rule about the fastest lap. So that's why I'm confused. Right. No fastest lap point. Yeah, no fastest lap point. Okay. Didn't think we had the fastest lap. Okay. Not the point. Anyway, Burt Welly will pick up 25 points. That's going to take his total up to 61. Which will put him ahead of Carl Stewart Woodard. And in 6th place. A very strong finish then. Shackleton, 2nd place, 18 points. Disappointing turnout considering his teammate's not here, but he's got an opportunity to make up for it in Baku. He will be on 120 points, so he's going to be 27, so just shy of a race win behind Cheng Fan. If he wins next time out, he'll be just the 2 points behind as the inside line beckons for Dan Riley, but no doing on this occasion. And Shackleton's into the pit lane now. I think he's going to go for a similar thing to what Paul Gurung did, but those tyres are going to last just a bit longer. But, on the contrary, Paul Gurung, he's got those tyres warmed up. He's got the undercut. And he's got a chance here to catch up. No, he doesn't. Oh, because of course the 10-second time penalty. Of course. But yeah, anyway, back to the point. And I mean, he was always going to pit then, Shackleton, or he was always going to pit at some point because he just has no need to not, you know. But well, he's likely to pit. If not, he's likely to get a puncture. That's the flip side. But yeah, Stuart Towers, 15 points, huge points tally for him, and a very well done job. To be fair, he'll jump past Kyle as well. Although will he? Because he'll pick up 15. Kyle will pick up 6. So that means it's a 9-point swing. That means that yes, he will jump ahead of Carl Stewart Woodard if results remain the same. Dan Riley will jump past his teammate, but will not make the inroads on Ferrari that he would have wanted to. Or at least he would have wanted to maintain it a little bit the same. I think he would have wanted to be third place. And I think he still has a chance to be third place. But Paul Garung in behind. Great opportunity for him. If it stays if it stays as it is now, he's going to be equal with Steven Snell. And, they're going to be equal on points, I think. Is it going to be... Is it going to be Paul Garung ahead? Or is it going to be Steven? I know Steven's got a race win. So that's going to boost him. And of course, he won the opening round. That's the stats that I've got up on my screen at the moment. And, it was... Steven Snell's got 2 wins, actually. And he won at Bahrain as well. But other than that, I think it has just all been Ferrari. Mostly Chenkovan. Small smatterings of Shackleton. Yeah, so 1 Shackleton win, 2 Snell wins. And the other 5. Well, the other 4 even, Andrea Chenkovan. The 5th one will be Burt Welly. By the looks of things, potentially a 2nd win in a row for Ethan Shackleton, which would be huge in his championship hopes, because he goes from just over a race win behind to, well, just under a race win behind, and he will be 20 points in behind his teammates. And then, if he wins again in Baku, take a 5-point swing heading into the next round of the season. But... when Chenkovan comes back in Singapore, it's sprint race time under the lights, baby. And for Singapore, it's the 2nd and final sprint race of the season. Then we head after the Dutch Grand Prix as the fastest lap is set by Shackleton on those new Inters. It's going to be after Zandvoort, after the Zandvoort. It's going to be heading to Azerbaijan next week, and Singapore the week after for, of course, that sprint race I mentioned. America, Texas for round number 11. Brazil, round number 12 at the Sao Paulo circuit, the Autodromo. Jose Carlos Pache. And then Qatar and Abu Dhabi to round out the season. And we will see whether we get to that point. We'll see whether we get to that point of the season with, still fights going on. I'm sure that Chenkovan Shackleton is going to go further than it looks like it might at the moment, because Chenkovan will be on a low. He'll be rusty because he's obviously not been here for the last couple of weeks. Shackleton will be flying, man. Shackleton will be absolutely flying, and he'll be in a very, very good position with very high confidence if he's able to win the next 2 rounds. And that's not a given. It does look like Burt Welly, if he's able to hold on to those tyres, will hold on to this win. But yeah, not a given. Wide for Dan Riley. Through goes Paul Garung. Free position for the Aston Martin. And he moves up to 4th spot. Trying to close in on Towers now. 1.1. The gap comes down to 1.0. Then less than a second. Was the plan out of the first corner? Is he going to be able to achieve that? Not quite. Yes, he is. No, he's not. He did get just under a second very briefly, so Mark would have been happy with it. But he's going to be able to go again. Mark is, of course, the race engineer in F1. That's who I'm talking about, by the way, when I say Mark. Mark is so demanding. I was doing a career mode race on the TikTok live the other day, and Mark said, okay, you need to stay ahead of Tsunoda. I stayed ahead of Tsunoda, but then Tsunoda got DRS. So down the straight, as once I cross the line, I'm going to be, it's going to be a complete task. I'm going to get the R&D points or whatever it does. Still not 100% sure what it does, but I'm going to get the points for whatever it is, towards whatever it is. Maybe it's just research points, I'm not sure, but I had that, and then I just go, Yeah, or Sonoda has the DRS on me down the straight, and he very briefly gets ahead of me, and he's like half a tenth ahead, and then I outbrake him into the next braking zone, get back ahead. Still, mission failed. We'll get him next time, apparently. So, I've got beef with Mark. Don't know if you could tell. I miss Jeff. You know who I miss? Was he called Andy? I think I'm just a nostalgia merchant. F1 2010, man. Is it Andy? Rob. Rob is the name, I think. No, it was Andy. It was Andy, I think. No. What? Okay, so. Don't trust the AI overview chat. F1 2010 was Rob Stanton, same voice actor as Jeff, just with a bad mic, because it was supposed to simulate, like, race engineer. And obviously at those, back in the day, they didn't have that great mics. F1 2011 to 2014, Andy Knight. So, it was Rob, then it was Andy, then it was Jeff, then it was Mark. God, can we make some more interesting names? Some more interesting male names. Rather than 4-letter. And I know Rob's the exception. But rather than just 4-letter Dreer fests. I want to see something interesting. I like it. I like a Z thrown in there. I like a Z. Have we got any interesting names here? Luca's quite interesting, I guess. Yeah, we've got Bert. Yeah. Ethan's not bad. Stuart. Yeah, again. Just to be fair, most of the names in the APC grid, you should have a mortgage. Paul, Dan, Dan's not bad. Luca, Kyle again. Luca, as I said, Luca's not bad. Kyle's not bad. Connor's not bad. Brian, no comment. As my granddad's name, no comment. Harry, again, not terrible. Don't hate it. Jack, not bad again. Not bad. We've got a couple not bad ones. We've got a couple, wife and 2 kids names. But ultimately, that's fine. That's fine. And then, of course, we've got Andrea, which is fine. Stephen as well as Paul Garung on the inside line of the first corner on Stuart Towers. He's going to snatch that podium away. Those tyres are withering away on the Williams. And that was surely a move that was always going to happen for the Aston Martin. He's got it done. And he's made his way through. And I think third place is going to be the highest he gets. He's going to be disappointed in the race he's had. Because even with that 10-second time penalty, which would have put him behind Shackleton anyway, he's going to be disappointed with... Because get rid of that 10-second time penalty, he's still 10 seconds behind. And that is disappointing considering where he was at the start of the race. He was very much with the pace, even some points quicker than Shackleton. So he could have stayed ahead. Shouldn't have been called Paul. But yeah, we've got Andrea and Stephen. Stephen, I think, is more like a... I think it's more fun in Dutch. English, maybe not so much. But yeah, interesting how the different cultures work. I think, I don't know much, but I think Paul is like a good name in South Asian culture. I know Paul Lim's pretty cool, but he's also 72, something like that. So maybe I'm just basing it on that. Maybe I'm just basing it on the fact that I like Paul Lim. Okay, but it's better than the first Stuart that comes to mind, other than Stuart Towers, of course, is Stuart the Minion from the Minions movie, like the tall guy. It comes to mind when I say Ethan. Or Jamie Shackleton, of course, but that's a reference from here, so that doesn't count. People I know called Ethan, I guess. Has there ever been any famous Ethans? Has there ever been any famous Ethans? I'm sure there has. Famous Ethans. Don't know him. Don't know him. Ethan Payne I've heard of for some reason. I don't know any of these Ethans. I can't lie to you. Ethan Mbappe, there we go. But not a name that exists. Sorry. Dan. Famous Dans. Dan Howell came out as being with Phil Lester yesterday, obviously. The most obvious coming out ever. Ethan Klein. Sorry, I'm still on that topic. But yeah. Dan Howell in the most obvious relationship. Sorry, but it was. In history. 16 years they were together. And they just didn't want to tell us. And we were like, well, we knew. Luca Rapassa. WR Tier 2 champion. Now, that's not quite on the same level as anyone else. But I don't know. Famous Lucas. It's just going to come up with Lucas. Luca Toni. Yeah. Luca Badoa. There we go. Famous Luca. Kyle. Famous Kyles. Kyle Broflovsky from South Park is the only one Google can can't speak, can come up with. Anyway, this is not a topic of conversation for now. What is a topic of conversation is, well, Burt Welly, final lap of the race. He has managed to hold on to these tyres for 28 laps of this race, as has Stuart Towers, as has Dan Riley, but they've not had the overspeed that Burt has been able to extract out of that V-carb today, and I think he's going to be on to take his first APC victory, and what a victory it would be, just taking the gamble to stay out, even when Paul and Ethan, his rivals, ended up coming into the pit lane. Burt Welly stayed out and he held on to those tyres for as long as he possibly could. And, well, now he's reaping the rewards. Ethan Shackleton was closing in, didn't start off his stint as well as I think he would have wanted to. And so therefore he wasn't able to gain. I think the first couple of laps he actually lost about a second on Burt Welly, who was just absolutely flying in the first part of the stint. Now he's cruised over the line and he will take his first APC victory. Burt Welly, what a drive from the V-carb driver, and he takes his first victory. Second place for Ethan Shackleton, not too bad, closes the gap at the top of the championship to Chenkovan and takes the fastest lap to boot to 1 minute 23.323. Third place is going to go to Paul Garung, who I think he'll be disappointed. That 10-second really derailed his race, and from there was no coming back. He will take third spot. Stuart Towers, fourth place for him, as he tried to hold on to the podium. He almost did, but the tyre wear just, it was too overpowering. He succumbed to it in the end. Dan Riley, fifth spot, and Lucas Erasini trying to fight for it actually out of the final corner, but he's not got the traction, and Dan is going to come across the line to take that fifth spot. Luca in sixth place, finishing his first race with no assists. Carl Stewart Woodard will come home seventh, and the final driver not lapped as Connor, Brian and Harry Jennings will be the final drivers to round out the field, but it's going to be Carl Stewart Woodard who's going to be the final finisher, and a big gap up to Lucas Erasini, a 38-second one as he's slowed. You think he's just cruising across the line in the 94 McLaren? Because why not? I mean, he is the only driver out there. He's going to finish us off, and he's going to pick up 6 points to the McLaren cause. 36 laps of Zandvoort complete. Burt Welly victorious. And we're going to get the chance to speak to a couple of our drivers, including our race victor, Bert Welly, who hopefully can hear me. And well, if you can, just talk us through that race. I mean, it was an interesting one. Good victory in the end.
Well, thank you, thank you. First, starting into the race, I knew the Netherlands is, I think, one of my worst tracks. So nothing big coming into the race. Went into quali, got a decently P3. Was not expecting that, and once I saw the race was gonna be raining, I was like, this is my one of my only chances of winning, so I had to maximize.
Yeah, and I mean, you certainly did maximise it, taking your first victory in APC. How does that one feel?
It feels amazing. It feels amazing.
Well, that's very good. And I mean, heading towards the rest of the season, how is it? How is it going to feel then? I mean, you've got 6 rounds to make an impression. You've got Azerbaijan next week, Singapore, America, Brazil, Qatar, and then Abu Dhabi to round out the season. How does that rest of the championship feel? Do you reckon you'll be able to pick another one of these up?
Yeah, I think for sure I could try and get at least one more win, a few more podiums to really prove.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I think you've done so in just taking that one victory. But thank you very much for joining me today. Congrats on your victory. I won't hold you too long, and we'll see you next week.
Well, thank you so much. I'll see you guys next week.
Of course, helping him or allowing him even to soak up the champagne. And that was a very, very well-earned victory. Second place, though, did end up going to the man who looked like he was going to be able to catch at one point, but was not quite able to bridge it and ended up 10 seconds in behind Bert. But Ethan, you took a gamble at the end of the race. Do you want to just talk me through the race for you as a whole?
Yeah, I do feel like I had the actual like best pace out of everyone, but not enough to overtake. Like maybe only about 2 or 3 tenths a lap quicker. Unfortunately, I seem to be much better in the high speed corners, but any kind of slow traction zone, like when you're coming out of a hairpin, I just would lose out, and I think most of the straights are all after them. So I'd never really get close enough in the overtaking kind of opportunities. But ultimately, I don't think I really had enough of an overtake delta, if you know what I mean, to actually get past anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the pace at the start of the last stint. I mean you came in onto a set of the onto a set of the hards. No, onto a set of the intermediate tyres. You were significantly quicker at the start of the stint. Did you feel as though you were going to be catching Bert at any point?
Not really. I think the problem was that the tyre wear was extremely low, so Bert's old tyres weren't too bad for him. If they fell off a lot more, then I'd need, in order for me to catch up, I would have needed his tyres to fall off a lot more. But I think you could probably do the whole race on one set. The tyre wear was unfortunately very low today.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, it was a weird race where it was the wets to the inters, and then of course you had the dry qualifying. How did you set up for it? Was it a case of you set yourself up for the dry and just hope that the wet wouldn't last too long? Would it be vice versa? Did you set up for something in between?
I set up for the wet, but typically I'd run a lot of downforce here anyway, so it's extremely similar. I think my dry setup was like 48 out of 50 downforce, so I just bunked that up to 50.
That's fair enough. I mean, that's basically all you do, the difference between a wet and a dry setup. But yeah, I mean, and then championship-wise, you're catching Andrea. He's not going to be here next week either, which means that the gap shrinks down. And I did do this maths. The gap shrinks down now to 27 points, just over a race win. How surmountable do you think that's going to be?
Ooh, when you put it like that, it sounds pretty good. I know I'll be missing one race later on in the year. But I do think ultimately Andrea's got pace in the bag over me. So whenever we are obviously on track together, he's more likely to win. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe he'll have a spin and he'll crash out of one race in the lead, and that could swing everything. So yeah. But the championship's not something I'm thinking about too much because I know it's a bit out of my reach.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, well, we've seen it before. Hungary last year, where Andrea Jenkovan crashed out from the lead right at the very end of the race. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me today, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much. Cheers. See you.
And that is the two men who stood on top of the podium. I think that's going to be the only drivers from the podium that we're going to get the chance to speak to. Of course, in the end, didn't run you through the grid order, just wanted to get a chance to speak to Bert before he disappeared, and we're not going to get the chance to speak to Paul, I don't think, today. The closest that we're going to be able to get is going to be 5th spot, and a man that did challenge for the podium at one point, Dan Riley. Dan, do you want to just talk us through the race from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you for having me again. It's been a while since, it's been a couple of weeks, I can't actually remember, but I think we had an okay race. Before we get into anything, I wasn't really feeling the best. I was kind of debating on just not turning up to this race, but I had to give it a go at least. Maybe first couple of laps. But yeah, I'm actually quite surprised I finished the entire race, to be fair. But yeah, I think we did okay. I mean, like quali was okay, but I have no pace in the rain, no, like none whatsoever. So yeah, it's kind of expected that I was P5, but I think I could have got maybe P4, maybe even P3 in the race. But something that I have no idea why, but my fuel was just so bad. Like fuel around this track was so bad. I was having to save my fuel like halfway through the race because I was gonna eventually run out. But yeah, that's why Stuart was catching me. Then yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the Aston Martin of Paul, but yeah, he boxed. Yeah, and then I think I just went off track. He overtook me, and then I was battling with Luca. He was putting up a very, very good fight. And then he really did catch me napping into the last corner. I'm not sure if you saw that, but he really did have a go. But yeah, we did manage to get that P5. So, it's an okay race. I mean, I would have hoped for more considering that Stephen and Andrea were not racing today, but it was a wet race, so I can't really say, I would have been, first or second, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I was going to ask about the potential feeling of maybe missing out because, of course, Andrea and Stephen weren't here today. But I mean, it makes sense. A wet race completely throws things into the mix. Looking at the rest of the season, I mean, we've got Azerbaijan coming up next week. Are you feeling that might be your chance to maybe take advantage because Andrea's not here again?
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't actually know he was missing next week as well. I thought I did hear a rumor that he was missing it, but that's actually put a bit of a smile on my face now that he hasn't. Yeah, he's not racing next week. But I haven't done any practice quali sessions in Azerbaijan, but I can tell you one thing: it is one of my strong circuits. I was kind of gutted last season that we didn't race in Azerbaijan, but I'm actually really looking forward to it. I'm not expecting, P1 or P2. Actually, maybe actually P2. I don't know. We'll have to see how I am in the quali tests that I do. But it's one of my strong tracks. Not my strongest track, but it is one of my strong tracks, which I do enjoy driving.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we will be seeing you then, and thank you for joining us today.
That's right. Cheers. Thank you.
We will then we'll go down the order, I think, and that means no. Actually, I've changed my mind. We're going to go down to go up, and we'll speak to. Normally, he's the first one in the broadcast box. He was a little bit later to the waiting room today, but we're going to get the chance to speak to Brian more about the race that he's just had. I mean, it was 9th place, 2 points on the board, not too shabby. And do you want to just talk me through it from your perspective?
As per usual, it's a very boring race, not much happened. There's a nice battle with Connor at one point. Could have been more, I just didn't really get the car set up right today, so could have been more, but P9, I'll take it. 2 points on the board. Coming off obviously not racing Silverstone, so the more points, the better at this point of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see towards the end of the season, because of course you are going to start to have maybe fights soon in the championship on Burtwelly. Maybe has jumped a bit out of reach with that race win, but the likes of Connor, the likes of Jack, are you thinking they're going to be reachable?
At this point in the season, I'm not sure what is. I mean, hopefully, but I'm not sure at this point of the season.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I mean, just looking at the rest of the season as a whole, you got Azerbaijan, the next race up. How are you feeling about that one?
I'm not so much feeling confident about my ability there. I'm more confident someone's or one or two people are going to mess it up in some free positions. I'm more confident about that than my own abilities around there.
Just make sure you survive the castle section, I think is the name of the game. But yeah, I mean, well done today, and we will see you then next week.
Thank you.
And that means, of course, we're going to end off with a little chat to Kyle Stewart Woodard. Now, I mean, it was a little bit of I wouldn't call it a boring race.
Monica.
I mean, you ended up in a little bit of no man's land, but do you want to just talk me through that race from your perspective?
Are you trying to do number 5? That's what. For some reason, as you're speaking, that's all I'm hearing when you're saying a little bit. Where race? Yeah, you know what? It was weird. I was actually. I don't know if you obviously read the pre-race interview, but I actually felt pretty strong, pretty good about this one actually going into it. But it wasn't a perfect quali, unfortunately. Obviously, Connor had done a really good lap. I think I had a faster lap than him in there, so probably around sort of Dan Riley pace. But yeah, it did quite work out. And then the race in the wet, yeah, I quite baffling if I'm honest. Like people were going fast through corners, which normally in the wet are like flat. But in the wet, so in the dry, flat. But in the wet, I couldn't go through them flat without losing the rear end. But everyone else seemed to be able to go through them a lot quicker than me. So don't really know where I was going wrong. And obviously Luca got past me eventually. It was a bit bargy, but it was fair, safe, no damage done. And fair enough, it was a lot quicker than me. So yeah, I was kind of on my own. I had over 20 seconds of the cars in front and behind me, so it's a little bit lonely in that end part of that race. But I knew I obviously had to save fuel as well. But I realised that I was able to get to the last lap without being lapped if I kept at the current pace. So I decided to do that and just let the fuel run out on the last lap and coast to the end really. But yeah, a little bit lonely, but I guess it's not. I survived it, didn't crash. Oh, I don't know what happened with Jack actually. I'm not sure if he jumped in for an interview, but he seemed to go into the back of me into a corner. I think he didn't expect how much I was struggling through that sector. Probably took a bit too much speed in and kind of went into the back of me, which is a shame for him because he was looking pretty fast as well. I don't really know why he was at the back in the first place, but yeah. But overall, look, it's a good point still. I'm still think I'm probably not leading that mid-group battle now. I think Stuart's probably going to jump back ahead of me, but yeah, good points. We'll take it. We will take it. It's not a bad race.
Yeah, I mean, Stuart was ahead of you. Or no, he wasn't. He was just a bit behind, but he is now ahead of you, as is Burt Welly as well. So you've dropped down to 8th after that race. But I mean, looking towards the rest of the season, do you think you could do a Burt Welly, take a victory? Do you think you could really throw yourself back into the fight for that 6th spot, maybe even higher?
I'll be honest, I really thought this was going to be the closest. Like Ethan, I thought was actually going to win this, and my money would have been on Ethan. Bert kind of surprised me a little bit today. But I thought this was so far, of all the races we've done so far, I thought this was the closest chance I had of a pole at least. But hasn't quite worked out that way. As soon as I saw it was wet, my heart dropped because I was like, yeah, no, I'm never the fastest in the wet. But it's possible. We've got the two. I was just talking to Dan Riley in the waiting room. The two the hard street circuits coming up, which are going to be wild with a sprint mixed in there as well. It's going to be a crazy next 2 weeks. So anything can happen. And I'm just trying to think the calendar off the top of my head. Possible. I think Kota, I think we've got that in there, which is a track I think it's the only track I've ever won an APC race at. Me and Ethan battled that right to the end. That was a fun one. So I guess if there's anywhere else it could possibly happen, it would be there. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. There's no track that I'm dreading coming up. That I can say.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we will be seeing you, of course, throughout the remainder of the season, and we'll be seeing, hopefully, all the other drivers throughout the remainder of the season as well. We are over halfway through now the season. We've got the round 8 ticked off. We've got Azerbaijan next week. Then we've got Singapore, USA, the race around Texas, the circuit of the Americas. Then Brazil, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi to round out our season. But an interesting race here today. It certainly was at Zandvoort, and a dry qualifying and then a wet to enter race. So we had all of the conditions, and we had maybe a few surprise results. Bert Welly certainly being one of them, with it being his debut APC victory. But to those of you who watched along, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, it is goodbye. And the action's underway. Stance's authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong. On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch!
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this.